So how do you tell if homesteading, true homesteading, is really right for your family? Welcome back to the channel, beautiful biscuits. So I promised you that I was going to talk a little bit more about homesteading, both urban homesteading and out in the boonies homesteading this year, because it's something that I have been working on, thinking about, percolating upon for 2 years now. Yeah, wow. Yep, solid 2 years. I think almost exactly. Yeah, I think it was January 2 years ago that I started really thinking about it. If you are new here, hi, I am Rose Kelly. I am a romance and erotic author. You can check out all of my novels and novellas. It's linked down in the description box. I run a really wonderfully successful Patreon page that is successful because you biscuits have been so incredible about wanting to connect, about wanting to hear that primal inner being voice and kind of figure out how to have like fun with our self-care, to take care of ourselves, not to fit in with some concept of like wellness movement, you know, but just have fun with it, right? And to have food. Yes, my 2-year-old is over here helping me out with being the director of this video. But I also opened a glamping business about a year ago, so it took me about a year, hi my love, of, oh okay, yeah, you can go have the snacky poos I set out. It took me about a year of prep work to get my homestead farm that's all off-grid ready for glampers. And I've put in all this time and thought to it, and so I have a urban homestead that is my home, and then this little small off-grid homestead farm that we've kind of been deciding, you know, what is the process for us, what works for our family. And I have learned so much. I've learned so much about being an off-grid homesteader, because I've really done the legwork, I mean literally physically and then mentally, of just learning about all these topics. And then I have done the urban homesteading. Really, I've been doing urban homesteading for more than 2 years, but I really got into the last 2 years a whole bunch. And it changed my whole... honestly, I wish I had this video to watch 2 years ago, because so much of the homesteading videos I love. I love watching great advice on YouTube for homesteading, urban and off-grid. I love watching the whole movement on that, but it can often be big extremes and maybe not really the discussions of what's it like for your family, for yourself, for your schedule to be a homesteader. So how do you tell if homesteading, true homesteading, is really right for your family? Because it's a big question. You don't want to make this big leap and then realize in a couple years that it's not for you, because then you've put all this time and energy into it, right? So it's better to tell ahead of time. So let me tell you about all of my mistakes and my successes that have made me really reevaluate and reassess and kind of where I'm coming from for homesteading. So how do you tell? Okay, this is a really important one and no one mentions it enough. How many hours, realistically, honestly, do you have to be out doing farm chores outdoors every single day? So if you really want to homestead, that's a very important question. So we've gotten to a place with our off-grid homestead where we just don't have enough hours in the day. So we have really gotten to a place where, you know, our off-grid homestead is a good drive away from where we live. And you know, we live where we live because our family needs certain things, and that's just what our kids need right now. And so we can't be living there right now. It's just not where our season of life is. And we had thought for the last 2 years maybe we would build a house there and live there. And it looks increasingly like I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's the spot for us. But what it taught me was, how many hours do you have? Are you commuting to your homestead? Is your homestead where you are? You know, because a lot of us build up slowly to it, right? We don't just go all in, right? Because we just can't. And the sheer amount of hours needed to operate your homestead is immense if you're planning to do a full homestead. And you've really got to look at how many hours do you have for weeding the garden, watering vegetables and flowers, keeping pests away, taking care of livestock, taking care of pets and kids, taking care of just home and yard maintenance that you're gonna have to be doing on a homestead. If you have, you know, lawnmowers or a tractor, are you doing maintenance on that? It's a lot more hours than I think a lot of people admit to, because it's not very glamorous to admit that it's that many hours. And we've really hit a sticking point with our situation where we just don't have enough hours, you know. I work, I homeschool the kids, and I do our urban homesteading, and then also doing off-grid homesteading is an immense amount of time commitment, and I really have had to let certain things go that can be let go of because there's only so many hours in the day. So be really realistic when you ask yourself genuinely how many hours you actually have for chores. Genuinely like livestock. Like, is that something that you would really enjoy working around? And that can be chickens or pigs or cows or goats, you know. Is that something you want for your homestead? Be honest with yourself and your whole family. Do you really want to do livestock? Because I think sometimes you get into homestead and you think, I've got to do it all. I've got to do it all at once. If you're not completely self-sustaining, what's the point? And I don't think that has to be the point of homesteading. You know, we are not a self-sustaining homestead, right? We go to the grocery store. I love Costco. But, you know, we use our own eggs and we grow a lot of our own vegetables. We grow some of our own fruit. We grow a lot of our own herbs and, you know, mints for teas and things. And then we'll buy from local farm stands where our budget allows for like lotions and soaps and honeys, but we don't have to be self-sustaining. So for us, like, our answer for our family is we are not a livestock family. I don't think we'll probably ever be a livestock family. It's very capital intensive up front. It's very time consuming on a daily basis. And it's just not something that drives our passion. So I don't feel like we're ever going to be a livestock homestead. That's just never going to be our thing. But if that's something you're thinking about, be really honest with yourself about how much you like the animals, spending time around them, how you feel about in really bad weather having to take care of these animals. And livestock are going to tie you to your homestead year round, right? Something we like doing is being a little bit less tied to the homestead in that, you know, most of our stuff that we do is spring, summer, early fall. And then you got this winter kind of downtime to relax. And like, obviously we still have to take care of our chickens year round, but it makes a big difference that we don't have big major livestock. So really think about that and ask yourself and your whole family to answer honestly how much you like livestock. Okay, this one is so important. What brings you joy about homesteading? What on your homestead, even in your mind, say you don't have a homestead, you could live in a one-bedroom apartment right now and you're dreaming of your homestead. What brings you the most joy? And you know, close your eyes, think about it. And this is part of that beautiful manifesting that we're talking about all month on Patreon. Is we're doing a special 11-day manifestation course on there, and we're bringing up. You have to visualize and see and feel the energy that you are trying to manifest in your life, right? So for me, you know what I love is I absolutely love having a tomato garden. I love having a flower garden. I find chickens really enjoyable in large part because my kids love them so much. So that's something really fun that brings me joy. I absolutely love having a little fruit orchard. That just brings me pure delight. So it's small things for me, you know, like my goal with homesteading is not to be totally self-sufficient and off-grid away from the world. It's more just to have my children grow up knowing where food comes from. And, you know, in America, our food supply chain is a little sketchy. There's a lot of additives to things, and just it's not a lot of quality produce or meat that you can buy, right? Like from factory farming and stuff, and the nutrition's just not there. And so, you know, I want a nutritious availability for our family of what we grow. Oops, sorry. And that's really important to me. So that's what brings me joy in the homestead, and it's totally different for everybody, right? And that also brings my creativity, my inner artist joy, right? But if I don't ask myself that first, and I kind of barreled ahead into the homesteading idea of just like, we're going to do everything, we're going to do all this stuff, it's going to be so fun, it's going to be so easy, woo! And it was not that case at all, because I'm definitely a rose-colored glasses, kind of rose, haha. And realistically looking back, I think I should have paced myself a little bit more and thought it through more. I don't regret any of our homesteading decisions we've done, except for maybe all those tulips that I planted that the squirrels ate. But knowing what brings me joy now, and this may be one of those things, you kind of have to homestead for a while before you can figure out an answer to this. Knowing what brings me joy lets me focus on what our homestead is, so that I'm not so all over the place, and so that I can actually achieve accomplishments with our homestead. Okay, this one's really important. So I know some homesteaders live on the homestead full time, but almost all the homesteaders that I'm aware of also work a job, and most of y'all have kids. How flexible are your job hours and job requirements? How flexible is your childcare? Childcare might be school time, might be babysitter, might be nanny, whatever that is. How flexible is that? Because stuff's going to come up if you really are like into hardcore homesteading, where you're going to need a lot of flexibility. And does your work and childcare offer you that flexibility? So for me, what I have found works is just scaling back, having a smaller concept of what a homestead is, so that I can be more flexible in my job and family time, because that's a priority right now over the homesteading. But knowing that answer is really important. You know, if you move out to just the middle of nowhere and your job needs certain hours, it needs certain internet connectivity, your kids need certain hours of care, like, is that going to allow you to really homestead, or is it going to be super stressful? Because my philosophy is, if it's not bringing you joy, if it's not letting you follow your bliss, why are you putting all this effort and time and work into it, right? Like, maybe it's the idea of homesteading more than some of the actual parts of homesteading that are what you really want to pursue. And you got to ask yourself those questions to know, to then be able to have that joyful time in nature and be part of the growing season and knowing where your food comes from. There's so many areas that are so delightful of that. But these are ways that I wish somebody would have asked me before I started homesteading, is how do you know if it's right for you and your whole family, right? It's like a family decision to homestead. And go easy on yourself, you know? Maybe your answer to this now is going to be different than in 1 to 5 years, right? You know, like, that a lot can really change, especially as you experience all the homesteading things. But if you ask yourself that now, it lets you focus for the whole rest of the year on what you feel homesteading wants to be for you. Okay, biscuits, I'm going to see you on Patreon all month for our amazing 11-day manifestation course. It is incredible. If you want to kickstart bringing in that energy so that by the end of this year you are living that dream, that succulent luxury of freedom, of time, and of happiness. You want to be following that bliss of yours. This is an amazing course to just kickstart your energy, focus your mind, and manifest some incredible things. I'll see you over on Patreon.